That Sunday morning, the New York City air was already thick with the familiar humidity of summer. I was sitting in my favorite corner cafe in Brooklyn, granting myself a rare moment of peace. After a grueling work week, the ice in my iced latte had nearly melted, leaving a ring of cold condensation on the small table. I watched the blur of people on the street, my thoughts drifting to Mark. My husband had been in London for 3 days on a business trip. He'd told me it was crucial for his promotion, so I was anxious for him, just hoping everything would go smoothly. Suddenly, my phone vibrated violently on the table, shattering the calm. The screen lit up with 2 words: Carol, mother-in-law. My heart skipped a beat. Carol rarely called me at this hour unless it involved money or a lecture on how I was failing in my duties as a daughter-in-law. I took a deep breath, pressing a hand to my chest to steady myself before answering. The other end of the line erupted in desperate, theatrical sobs, so piercing I had to pull the phone away from my ear. "Emily! Oh, Emily, my child! He's left us! Your husband has left us!" she wailed. "Oh, dear Lord, why am I so cursed?" I nearly dropped my glass. I tried to keep my voice as steady as possible. "Carol, please calm down. What happened to Mark? Tell me clearly." Carol's wailing continued unabated, her choked sobs and shrieks creating a chaotic mess of sound. "Mark was in a car accident in London. They just called the house to tell us. He's dead, Emily. My only son is dead in a foreign country." My ears filled with a dull ringing. The sounds of the cafe faded into a formless void. Mark, dead? But he had just called last night, complaining that he couldn't find a decent burger anywhere. How could this horrific news be true? I shot up from my chair, my limbs feeling weak and disconnected, the ground seeming to tilt beneath my feet. "Are you serious? How is that possible? He was on a business trip." Carol's voice turned shrill and accusatory through the phone. "Are you still just standing there asking questions? Why would I lie to you about something like this? They said you need to get over there immediately to identify the body and sign the cremation papers. Go home, get your passport, and get to JFK right now. Hurry, or you won't get to see your husband one last time." My mind shut down. The news was so sudden, so shocking, that my ability to reason was paralyzed. The image of Mark, lying cold and alone so far from home, flashed in my mind, and tears streamed down my face. Even though our marriage had its rough patches these last few years, even though he was often weak-willed and easily manipulated by his mother, he was still my husband, the man I shared my life with. I hastily paid my bill and scrambled outside to hail a cab. The only thought in my head was my mother-in-law's command: "Get to London now." Carol had claimed she was too frail, that the news had sent her blood pressure skyrocketing, so she couldn't possibly travel. Her other son, Kevin, was supposedly out of town and unreachable. Everything was on my shoulders. When the cab pulled up to our Brooklyn apartment building, I bolted inside and into the bedroom like a storm. I grabbed a few sets of clothes, shoving them into a suitcase with fumbling hands, knocking things over in my haste. I packed through a blur of tears, whispering prayers that this was all some terrible mistake. But Carol's cries had been too real, her urgency too palpable for me to cling to false hope. I glanced around our familiar bedroom, where the faint scent of Mark's cologne still lingered. Everything was exactly as he'd left it. Yet now, an insurmountable distance separated us. A sense of profound loss enveloped me, making it hard to breathe. I zipped the suitcase, slung my purse over my shoulder, and ran for the door. My mind was fixated on a single destination: JFK Airport. I had to go. I had to bring my husband home. The Uber sped down the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway toward the airport. The driver, seeing my red, swollen eyes and the way I clutched my purse, had the decency not to ask questions, just pressing a little harder on the accelerator. The city traffic was unusually heavy, cars inching along at every red light, making my anxiety burn like a wildfire. My phone rang again. It was Carol. "Where are you now? Have you made it to the airport yet?" Oh, God, why is my life so miserable? My daughter-in-law is slow as molasses, and my son is dead. If you don't get there in time and they cremate him without you, you'll bring shame upon this entire family, Emily. Her venomous words felt like knives twisting in my gut. I choked back my frustration and gave a short reply. I'm on my way to the airport now, Carol. The traffic is terrible. I'm going as fast as I can. Arriving at JFK, I threw some cash at the driver and dragged my suitcase in a dead run toward the International Departures Terminal. The bustling, noisy atmosphere of the airport was a jarring contrast to the shattering grief in my heart. I scanned the departures board for the next flight to London. There was one leaving in 2 hours. I had to rush through check-in to make it. I pushed through the crowded lines to get to the airline counter, sweat drenching my blouse. When the agent asked for my passport to issue the ticket, I confidently reached into the small pocket of my purse. It was empty. A jolt of panic shot through me. I frantically emptied the entire bag. Lipstick, wallet, keys, phone, everything was there except for the one thing I needed most, my dark blue passport. I remembered taking it out of the nightstand drawer back home, but in my frantic rush to grab my phone charger, I must have left it sitting right on top. My face went pale. The agent looked at me with pity. "Ma'am, do you have your passport? We can't issue an international ticket without it." I was frozen in place. This stupid, careless mistake was catastrophic. If I went back to Brooklyn now to get it, I would definitely miss this flight. But without a passport, I couldn't leave the country. I ran my hands through my hair, cursing myself for being so scatterbrained. My husband was lying in a morgue waiting for me, my mother-in-law was at home wailing, and I had made such a foolish error. There was no other choice. I had to go back. Defeated, I dragged my suitcase back toward the arrivals level to find another Uber. My heart was a lead weight in my chest. I could already imagine how Carol would tear into me when she found out. She'd call me a useless woman, unable to even handle her husband's final arrangements. I climbed into another car, my voice a hoarse whisper as I gave the driver the address. "Back to Park Slope, Brooklyn, please." The drive back felt like an eternity. The afternoon sun began to set, and the city lights started to twinkle, but everything in my world was gray. I huddled in the back seat, tears welling up again. I mourned for Mark, for his short life, and for myself, having to bear this pain alone amidst the constant criticism of his family. When I finally got back to the apartment complex, I paid the driver and wearily pulled my suitcase into the elevator. My plan was to grab the passport and book a red-eye flight. I would wait at the airport all night if I had to. I couldn't leave Mark alone over there. The elevator stopped on the 15th floor. I stepped out into the quiet, dimly lit hallway. The soft, yellow light cast long, eerie shadows on the walls. As I reached my front door and fumbled for my keys, I noticed something strange. The door was slightly ajar. I froze. I distinctly remembered locking it when I left. Did I forget in my haste? Or had someone broken in? A chill ran down my spine. Holding my breath, I gently pushed the door open. The living room lights were on, and the scene before me made my blood run cold. I stood, rooted to the spot in the doorway, my hand gripping the suitcase handle so tightly my knuckles turned white. What I saw wasn't an altar with incense burning, not an atmosphere of grief and mourning, but a small, cozy celebration happening in my own living room. There, on the cream-colored sofa, the one I had painstakingly saved my last year's bonus to buy, sat Mark, lounging casually with one leg crossed over the other. He was wearing a dark blue silk pajama set, his face ruddy and cheerful, showing no sign whatsoever of a man who had just been in a fatal car accident, let alone died. In his hand was a glass of swirling red wine. Sitting next to him was Carol, my mother-in-law, who just hours ago had been screaming in agony over the phone. Now she was calmly peeling an apple with a small knife, a wide grin on her face. "So, what do you think of my acting?" she chirped. The moment I started wailing, I knew Emily would buy it hook, line, and sinker. She's probably a sobbing mess at the airport right now. She popped a freshly peeled apple slice into her son's mouth. Mark caught the slice, chewed it loudly, and laughed. "You're the best, Mom. My wife is so naive. She believes anything you say. Just imagine her running around London looking for my body. She'll call. I won't answer. She'll be in a total panic." I felt like my chest was about to explode. My ears were ringing, but every single word they spoke was crystal clear, like hammer blows to my head. Was this Mark? My husband? And that was Carol, the mother-in-law I had always tried so hard to appease? I pressed myself back behind the door, trying not to make a sound. My instincts screamed that I was witnessing a monstrous play, and I needed to understand the full story before I exposed them. Holding my breath, I gently set my suitcase down, pulled out my phone, and with trembling hands, hit the record button. Inside, the mother and son continued their cheerful conversation, completely oblivious to my presence. Carol took a sip of tea, her face smug. "Have you worked out all the details? The power of attorney and the deed transfer, you have to get it done quickly. While Emily is gone for a few days, we'll get this apartment sold and the money transferred to Kevin's account. By the time she gets back, it'll be a done deal. The apartment won't be hers anymore. She can sue all she wants. It won't do any good." Mark took another sip of wine, his tone dismissive. "Don't worry, Mom, I've got it all prepared. Forging her signature is easy. Even though this place is joint property and her parents chipped in half, I'm the primary name on the mortgage. I can do whatever I want. Kevin's getting married soon. Jessica's family is rich. We can't have him showing up without a decent place of his own. Sacrificing Emily a little for my brother's future is no big deal." Hearing this, fresh tears streamed down my face, not of sorrow, but of pure, unadulterated rage. My parents back home had sold a piece of their retirement land, scraping together every penny to give me so we could afford the down payment on this apartment, hoping their daughter would have a stable home in the city. And now, these two were plotting to steal the fruits of my parents' sweat and tears to provide for their lazy, entitled brother-in-law. Carol clicked her tongue, her voice dripping with contempt. "It's Emily's own fault. Married for years, and her womb is still empty. Can't even give this family a grandchild to carry on the name. What's the point of keeping a barren hen around? Once we get this apartment, you should find an excuse to divorce her. I'll find you someone better, younger, prettier." Mark nodded in agreement. "You're absolutely right, Mom. I'm sick of her anyway, always coming home from work with a long face. The only reason I've put up with her this long is because I haven't gotten all her money yet." I bit my lips so hard I tasted blood to keep from screaming. The rage was a fire consuming me from the inside out. All this time, Mark's weakness was just an act. Beneath it was a calculating, treacherous, and utterly ruthless man. They didn't just want to trick me into leaving. They wanted to steal my home, throw me out with nothing, and humiliate me and my parents. I glanced at my phone. The recording was over 5 minutes long. It was enough. More than enough for irrefutable proof. I took a deep, steadying breath and wiped the tears from my cheeks. The weak, grieving wife had died along with the fake news of her husband's death. Standing here now was Emily, a woman betrayed, ready to fight for justice. I gripped the doorknob and slammed the door open. It crashed against the wall with a thunderous bang that shook the entire living room, silencing their fake laughter. "Quite a party," I said, my voice cold and sharp, cutting through their celebration like glass. "Is this how you mourn a dead husband?" The air in the living room turned to ice. A wine glass slipped from Mark's hand and shattered on the tile floor, the sound echoing in the sudden silence. Red wine pooled on the white tile, looking like a fresh splash of blood, a testament to their shamelessness. Mark leaped to his feet, his cheerful expression replaced by a ghostly pallor. He stumbled, knocking into the coffee table and spilling tea everywhere. Carol dropped the fruit knife onto her plate, her eyes wide with disbelief, staring at me as if she were seeing a ghost. I stood there, arms crossed, my gaze drilling into the two pathetic actors before me. Mark swallowed hard, trying to regain the composure of a slick sales manager. He forced a smile, a grotesque, twisted thing that made me want to vomit. "Emily, when did you get back? Why didn't you call? Don't misunderstand. I was just planning a surprise for you." I laughed out loud, a bitter, scornful sound. Even now, he thought his silver tongue could cover up the ugly truth. "A surprise? You were planning to surprise me by faking your own death so your wife would be racked with grief, drop everything, and fly to London to claim your body? Or is the surprise that you're sitting here celebrating with your mother while I was losing my mind with worry?" Carol, having recovered from her shock, snapped back to her usual venomous self. She jumped up, hands on her hips, her voice screeching over the hum of the ceiling fan. "Is that any way to talk to your husband, Emily? He came home early, and you should be on your knees thanking God. He was just testing you, to see if you truly loved him. Who knew you were such a petty, narrow-minded woman? Instead of being happy, you stand there slinging accusations. I looked at Carol with a disgust so profound it settled in my bones. Not only was she shameless, but she was trying to twist the situation to make me the villain. But today, I was no longer the meek, obedient Emily of the past. Don't you dare lecture me on morality, Carol. Testing me? Who tests someone's love by tricking their wife into leaving the country so they can forge documents and sell her home? Did you think I was deaf? I heard every word of your plan to give this apartment to Kevin so he could get married. Mark's face drained of its remaining color. He rushed toward me, intending to grab my arm and explain. I took a step back, and the coldness in my eyes made him freeze. Emily, just listen to me. It's not what you think. Kevin is about to get married, and her family insists he has a proper home. I'm the older brother. It's my responsibility to help him. I was just going to temporarily put the apartment in his name to make a good impression. Once the wedding was over, I'd transfer it right back. You're his sister-in-law. You should be willing to make a small sacrifice for your brother-in-law's happiness. His words were so outrageously false I felt sick. Temporarily. Make a good impression. The blatant lies he could conjure were astounding. I knew this greedy family all too well. Once Kevin's name was on that deed, the apartment would be gone forever. I would be kicked to the curb without a second thought. You make it sound so noble, Mark. A sacrifice? Why should I sacrifice my parents' life savings for your brother's ego? My parents gave us half the money for this place. What right do you have to decide its fate? And you dare to call me a barren hen? You were planning to kick me out and replace me, weren't you? Mark was stunned. He hadn't realized I'd heard everything. His panic was written all over his handsome, deceitful face. Seeing her son cornered, Carol jumped to his defense, her sharp tongue spewing more poison. So you heard it? Good. Then I'll say it to your face. You've been in this family for 3 years and your stomach is still flat. If you can't give us a grandchild, you have no rights here. My son's name is on the deed. He can give it to whomever he wants. If you know what's good for you, you'll sign the papers. I might let you stay. If not, then get out of my sight. Carol's words were the final straw, destroying the last shred of affection I had for them. They had shown their true colors, greedy, cruel, and utterly contemptuous of me. I looked around the living room, once my sanctuary, now just a cold, alien space. This elaborate scheme, wrapped in the guise of family duty and brotherly love, had been stripped bare. I knew the real battle was just beginning. The tension in the room was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Mark watched me with a calculating gaze, while Carol slumped into her chair in a huff, fanning herself furiously. They still thought I was the same weak woman, that a few threats would send me running. They were dead wrong. I slowly pulled my phone from my pocket, my finger gliding across the screen. Mark frowned. What are you doing? Calling your parents? You're a grown woman, Emily. Don't run crying to Mommy and Daddy over every little argument. I didn't answer. I just pressed play. The clear, crisp audio filled the suffocating silence. While Emily is gone for a few days, we'll get this apartment sold and the money transferred to Kevin's account. Carol's gleeful voice echoed through the room, her face contorted, shifting from red to ashen white. She lunged at me, trying to snatch the phone, but I was too quick. I stepped back, holding it high above her head. Then came Mark's voice. Don't worry, Mom, I've got it all prepared. Forging her signature is easy. Sacrificing Emily a little for my brother's future is no big deal. Mark was frozen to the spot. He understood the devastating power of that recording. It wasn't just proof of their immorality. It was legal evidence of conspiracy to commit fraud and theft. I stopped the recording and looked Mark straight in the eye, my voice firm and resolute. Did you hear that, Mark? Did you and your mother really think I was that stupid? Every word, every part of your disgusting plan, I have it all right here. This will be Exhibit A in court. Panic seized him. His voice began to tremble. Emily, calm down. We're husband and wife. We can talk about this privately. If you do this, you'll ruin me. Please, delete the recording. I promise I won't sell the apartment. I swear. Your promises are worthless now, Mark. I cut him off. You want me to be calm after my own husband faked his death to swindle me? You want to talk privately after you and your mother plotted to throw me out on the street? You may not be dead, Mark, but as of this moment, this marriage is. My declaration was a death sentence for our rotten relationship. Seeing her son back down, Carol flew into a rage, pointing a finger at my face. You dare threaten my son? You shameless daughter-in-law. I dare you. I paid for this house. I have the right. Who the hell do you think you are, threatening to sue us? Give me that phone. She charged at me like a cornered animal, but Mark managed to grab her and hold her back. He knew my temperament. Once I made up my mind, nothing could change it. And he, unlike his mother, understood the legal jeopardy they were in. "Mom, be quiet!" he yelled, stunning Carol into silence. He turned to me, his voice now pleading. "Emily, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Whatever you want, I'll give it to you. Just please don't make this a public scandal. Let's start over." I looked at him, feeling nothing but contempt. This man, who would sell out his wife for appearances, was now groveling to save his own skin. "It's too late, Mark. There is no starting over. I'm filing for divorce, and I will get back every single thing that belongs to me. You won't get a penny more than you deserve." With that, I turned and walked into the bedroom. I could hear Carol's shrieks and curses behind me, followed by Mark's heavy sigh. But none of it hurt me anymore. My heart had turned to stone in the face of their cruelty. Now, it was time to act. I stormed into the bedroom, slamming and locking the door behind me. Carol's yelling and the sound of furniture being knocked over still echoed from the living room. She was throwing a tantrum, screaming that her daughter-in-law was ungrateful, disrespectful, trying to steal her son's home. The old me would have been terrified, would have opened the door and apologized. But today, I ignored it all. I took a deep breath, focusing on keeping a clear head. First, I canceled my flight to London. I opened the airline app, and with a few quick taps, it was done. Seeing the cancellation confirmed message felt like shedding a massive weight. Next, I called David. He was my best friend from college, now a sharp, well-respected lawyer in the city. I knew he was the only one who could help me navigate this nightmare. He answered on the second ring, his voice calm and professional. "Emily? What's up?" I thought Mark was in London. I kept my voice steady, laying out the facts concisely. "David, I need your help. Mark faked his own death in London to get me out of the country so he and his mother could sell our apartment. I just caught them red-handed, and I have it all on tape. I want a divorce and a full division of assets, immediately." There was a moment of stunned silence on the other end. David was clearly shocked. Then, his voice became sharp and serious. "Are you serious, Emily? This is huge. Where are you? Are you safe?" "I'm at home, locked in the bedroom. I'm planning to pack a bag and get out of here right now. I can't stay in this house another minute." "Okay, listen to me," David said. "Calmly pack your most important personal belongings, your ID, passport, social security card, bank books, the deed to the apartment if you have it. Don't argue with them anymore. I'm sending my assistant to pick you up right now, or you can go to a hotel and text me the address. I'll meet you tomorrow morning to discuss the legal strategy. And whatever you do, hold on to that recording. It's your most powerful weapon. Thank you, David." "I'll do exactly as you say." After hanging up, I felt a surge of confidence. I pulled a large suitcase from the top of the closet. I didn't pack many clothes, just some business attire and casual outfits. I left behind every gift Mark had ever given me: the perfume, the handbags, the scarves. They were just painful reminders of a fraudulent marriage. I opened the small safe in the closet. Thankfully, I had always managed my own important documents. I took out the deed, my personal savings account statements, our marriage certificate, and some jewelry my parents had given me for the wedding. I buried them at the bottom of the suitcase under my clothes. I changed out of my casual clothes and into a black power suit. I pulled my hair back into a sleek ponytail and applied a coat of bold, red lipstick. I looked at myself in the mirror. The distraught, panicked woman from this afternoon was gone. In her place was a strong, determined woman. "You can do this, Emily. You don't need that worthless man to be happy." Outside, Carol was still screaming. "Open this door. "What are you doing in there? Are you stealing my son's money to run off with another man? I'm calling the police on you." I scoffed. The audacity of her, playing the victim. I zipped my suitcase, grabbed my purse, and unlocked the door. When I stepped out, poised and head held high, they both froze. Mark saw me dressed for battle, suitcase in hand, and the reality of the situation finally seemed to hit him. He knew I wasn't bluffing. I was really leaving. "Where are you going?" he asked, a note of panic in his voice. "It's the middle of the night." "Where I go is no longer your concern. As of this moment, we are separated. From now on, my lawyer will be in contact with you." I brushed past him as he tried to block my path, pulling my suitcase toward the front door. Carol lunged for it. "You're not going anywhere. What do you have in that suitcase? Open it. I bet you've stolen our family's cash and gold." I glared at her, my grip tightening on the handle. "Let go of my property. This suitcase contains my personal belongings and separate assets. If you touch me again, I will add assault and unlawful detainment to the list of charges." My tone was so forceful that even she recoiled. She had never seen me like this before. I walked proudly to the door, leaving the two of them stunned and furious. As the door clicked shut behind me, it closed a chapter of my life defined by deceit and misery. I had barely taken a few steps down the hall when Mark came running after me, blocking my path. He was obviously terrified I had the deed and was determined not to let me leave so easily. Carol hobbled out after him, still spewing insults, causing several neighbors to crack open their doors to see what the commotion was about. "Emily, stop right there! You can't take the deed! Give it back!" Mark yelled, his mask of civility completely gone. I stopped and faced him directly. More neighbors were gathering. This was exactly what I wanted. The more witnesses, the less likely they'd try anything physical, and the faster their true nature would be exposed. "You want the deed? So you can transfer it to your brother?" "Let me make this clear for everyone here," I said, raising my voice so our neighbors could hear. "This apartment cost $800,000. My parents sold their retirement property to give me $400,000 for the down payment. Your family contributed the other half. I have the bank statements and wire transfers to prove it. Do you really think you can just steal my parents' life savings?" A wave of murmurs rippled through the onlookers. "I always thought they were such a nice family," one neighbor whispered. "Turns out he's trying to cheat his wife. Poor Emily, she's so sweet. She married into a family of sharks." Hearing the gossip, Carol's face turned purple with rage. She stomped her foot and screeched, "Don't listen to her lies. What money of hers? She married my son, so her money is our money. It's a wife's duty to contribute to her husband's family. Now she wants a divorce and is trying to run off with everything, leaving my son with nothing." Her archaic, greedy logic made me laugh bitterly. "Carol, this is the 21st century, not the Dark Ages. The law is clear. Assets acquired during a marriage are marital property, and the money my parents gave me is documented as a separate gift. I'm not asking for anything more than what is rightfully mine. We can either sell the apartment and split the proceeds, or you can buy me out for my half of the equity at current market value, not 1 cent less." Seeing the tide turning against him, Mark switched tactics, playing the role of the distressed husband. "Emily, please, let's go inside and talk about this. You're making a scene. I never said I wouldn't pay you back. But you know, Kevin needs a place to live for his wedding. Just let me borrow the deed for a little while. After he's married, I'll give it right back." "Borrow it? You mean borrow it and then sell it, right?" I shot back. "I don't trust a word you say. You faked your own death. There is nothing you wouldn't do. So let me be clear one last time. I have the deed. My lawyer will be filing it with the court to freeze the asset. From this moment on, neither you nor anyone in your family is to touch this property. If I find out you forged any documents, you'll be facing jail time, Mark." At the mention of jail, Mark's face went white. He knew I wasn't bluffing. David was known for being a tenacious lawyer, and as my best friend, he would give me the best possible counsel. Seeing her son waver, Carol lost it completely. She lunged forward, trying to grab my hair. "You little witch! You dare threaten my son? I'll kill you!" Before she could touch me, the building's superintendent appeared. The neighbors, alarmed by the escalating conflict, had called him. "Everyone needs to calm down. This is a residential building, not a marketplace. If you don't disperse, I'm calling the NYPD." The large, imposing super stood between me and Carol. She froze, still muttering curses under her breath, but not daring to make another move. Mark grabbed his mother's arm, shot me a venomous look, and dragged her back inside, slamming the door. I smoothed my suit, thanked the super and my neighbors, and walked calmly to the elevator, suitcase in tow. I had won the first round. I had protected my and my parents' investment and exposed their true character to the community, but I knew they wouldn't give up this easily. The next morning, I was sitting in David's sleek office on the 20th floor of a skyscraper in downtown Manhattan. The space was luxurious and quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos of the previous night. David sat across from me, meticulously reviewing the stack of documents I had brought. "Your file is very solid, Emily," he said, pushing up his glasses. "The deed in both your names, the bank statements from your parents, and most importantly, this recording. I've listened to it. The intent is undeniable. What Mark and his mother did constitutes conspiracy to commit fraud, not to mention a serious breach of marital trust." I nodded, feeling a wave of relief. "So, what's our next move, David? I want this over with as quickly as possible." "I don't want to be tied to them any longer than I have to be," David smiled reassuringly. "Don't worry. First, I'm drafting the divorce petition and filing it with the court. At the same time, I'm filing for a temporary restraining order to freeze all transactions related to the apartment. That will legally prevent Mark from doing anything while we wait for a court date. But first, I think we need to pay them a visit. A direct confrontation will show them the serious legal consequences they're facing. You want to go see them?" "Yes. This afternoon, my assistant and I will go with you. I will represent you as your legal counsel. They need to see that you are not alone and that you have professional support." At 2 p.m. sharp, David's polished black sedan pulled up in front of my building. I got out with David and his young assistant, all of us looking professional and confident. We went straight up to the apartment. I rang the bell. After a moment, Mark opened the door. Seeing me with two strange men in suits, he looked visibly unnerved. "What are you doing back here? Bringing your boyfriends home?" he sneered, trying to provoke me. David stepped forward, holding out his business card. "Mr. Johnson," he said, his voice cold and authoritative. "I am David Chen, Miss Davis's legal counsel. I'm here today to discuss several legal matters pertaining to your impending divorce and the dispute over your marital assets. I suggest you let us in so we can have a serious conversation." Mark took the card, his hand trembling slightly. He glanced from David to me, his bravado quickly fading. He reluctantly stepped aside and let us in. In the living room, Carol was watching TV. She turned it off abruptly and glared at us. "You again? Now you're bringing lawyers to threaten me?" David ignored her, taking a seat and opening his briefcase. He placed a thick file on the table. "Mrs. Johnson, Mr. Johnson. Based on the evidence my client has provided, including the audio recording of your conversation last night, we have sufficient grounds to sue you for conspiracy to commit fraudulent conveyance. Specifically, Mr. Johnson faking his own death to lure my client out of the country for the purpose of illegally disposing of a marital asset could result in criminal charges with significant penalties." David spoke clearly and deliberately, each legal term landing like a heavy brick on their morale. Carol's face went white. She stammered but couldn't form a coherent sentence. Sweat beaded on Mark's forehead. "Lawyer, you're exaggerating." We were just joking. We didn't actually do anything." David's expression was grim. "Whether it was a joke or not will be for a judge to decide based on this recording. Furthermore, we have already filed a motion to freeze this asset. Any attempt to sell, mortgage, or alter the status of this property from this point forward is illegal and will be dealt with severely. I advise you both to cooperate and resolve this civilly. If you continue to harass, slander, or threaten my client, we will not hesitate to involve the district attorney's office." David's professionalism and unyielding stance completely shattered their aggression. Carol sat slumped in her chair, staring at the floor. Mark was nodding frantically, his head bowed, They finally understood they had picked a fight they couldn't win. The old Emily was gone. In her place was a formidable opponent with the full backing of the law. I looked at them without a shred of pity. This was only the beginning of the price they would have to pay. After the tense meeting with David, the atmosphere in the apartment became unbearable. I decided not to stay a second longer. Legally, I had every right to live there, but I couldn't stand the sight of their deceitful faces. Their very presence felt like a poison. I went back to the bedroom to retrieve my suitcase. Mark leaned against the wall in the living room, watching me with furtive eyes, but he didn't dare say a word. David's warnings about criminal charges had clearly terrified him. Carol sat curled up on the sofa, muttering curses under her breath, furious that her perfect plan had been foiled. I pulled my suitcase to the door, where David and his assistant were waiting to escort me out. I took one last look around the apartment. I had poured so much of myself into this place, from the custom curtains I'd sewn myself to the dining set I'd saved up for. Every corner held memories, both good and bad. Now, it all felt cold and foreign. I realized a home is only a home when it's filled with love. When that's gone, it's just four walls. I took a deep breath and walked away without looking back. The sound of the suitcase wheels on the tile floor was the only sound, a crisp, determined rhythm. I promised myself I wouldn't shed another tear for that treacherous man. My tears were too precious to waste on a rotten past. David took me to a 5-star hotel in Manhattan. He said I needed a safe, comfortable, and quiet place to recover from the shock. Stay here for a few days. I'll cover the costs for now. You can pay me back after we win the case. Don't go back to the apartment alone. They're desperate, and I don't trust them not to do something stupid. He handed me the room key. The card felt cold in my hand, but my heart felt warm. In my darkest hour, I had a true friend like David by my side. Stepping into the spacious, light-filled hotel room, I dropped onto the plush bed. Silence enveloped me. There were no more accusations from my mother-in-law, no more lies from my husband. I closed my eyes, feeling a sense of freedom seep into my very bones. This was where I would start my new life. I blocked Mark's and Carol's numbers. The legal battle was in David's hands. My job now was to take care of myself and prepare for whatever came next. I knew they wouldn't go down without a fight, but I was ready. The next morning, I was awakened by a flurry of notifications from my phone. I groggily reached for it. The lock screen was filled with messages from a group chat ominously titled The Johnson Family Circle. It was a group for all of Mark's aunts, uncles, and cousins. I unlocked the phone, curious about the early morning commotion. My eyes fell on a long, dramatic message from Carol, sent at 6 a.m. "Everyone, please, you have to help me." My daughter-in-law, Emily, the one I treated like my own blood, has turned on us. While her husband was working himself to the bone overseas, she was having an affair with some rich lawyer. When I found out, she left home to be with him and is now trying to steal everything Mark owns. She's made up horrible lies about us and even hired thugs to threaten me. Oh Lord, how can I survive this? Below her message was a grainy, poorly lit photo of me getting into David's car the day before. The angle was deliberately misleading, making it look like we were intimately close. Immediately, the family members piled on, no questions asked. Aunt Sue. "Oh my God, I can't believe it. Emily always seemed so sweet, but she's a snake. Cheating on her husband is unforgivable." Uncle Barry. "What a disgrace. Poor Carol and Mark. They took in a viper. That kind of woman needs to be taught a lesson." Cousin Mike. "We can't let her steal Mark's apartment. That place is the result of our family's hard work." Reading the slanderous messages, my blood boiled. Carol was a master manipulator, using the family grapevine to ruin my reputation and paint herself as the victim. Did she think I would be shamed into dropping the lawsuit? She had severely underestimated me. Calmly, I screenshotted the entire conversation for evidence. Then, I took a deep breath, selected the audio file of their monstrous plan, and sent it to the group chat. Along with the file, I added a short, powerful message. "To all my aunts, uncles, and cousins-in-law, before you pass judgment, please listen to this entire recording. Then you can decide who the real disgrace is. A husband fakes his death to defraud his wife. A mother helps him. The truth is right here. If anyone wants more details, I am happy to provide the legal documentation." The group chat went silent. For 5 minutes, not a single message appeared. I could picture them all, huddled over their phones, listening to the gleeful, wicked voices of Carol and Mark. The truth was so ugly, so undeniable, that no one could defend them. After 5 minutes, Aunt Patty, the most respected and outspoken member of the family, finally typed a message. "Carol, what is the meaning of this? That is clearly your voice and Mark's voice. How could you pull such a disgusting, heartless stunt? You've brought shame on this entire family." Then the tide turned. "Uncle Barry, Mark, you're a grown man, but you're a coward. Stealing from your wife to prop up your brother? I'm so disappointed in you. Aunt Sue." And here Carol was, crying about Emily having an affair. Turns out she was the one scheming all along. You reap what you sow, Carol. Seeing the situation implode, Carol tried to send a few weak messages of denial, but they were drowned out by a flood of criticism. Finally, humiliated, she removed me from the group chat. It didn't matter. The damage was done. I had exposed her to the entire family. She would never be able to play the victim again. I smiled and put my phone down. It was a decisive and effective counterattack. That afternoon, as I was working on my laptop in the hotel lobby, the front desk called to inform me someone was here to see me. I glanced toward the entrance and saw Kevin, my precious brother-in-law, pacing back and forth with a thunderous look on his face. He was dressed in a wrinkled t-shirt and cargo shorts, a stark contrast to the hotel's luxurious decor. I figured he must have found out my location from Mark. I closed my laptop and gestured discreetly to a nearby security guard before walking over to meet him. The moment he saw me, he stormed over, jabbing a finger in my face. "Emily, what the hell did you do? You sent that recording to the whole family, and now my mom is in bed with her blood pressure through the roof. Are you trying to kill her?" I coolly pushed his hand away. "Keep your hands to yourself. Your mother is sick with shame because her wicked deeds were exposed. That has nothing to do with me. I only told the truth. Wrongdoers are the only ones who have anything to fear." Kevin gritted his teeth. "Don't give me that crap. I don't care about right or wrong. You go home right now, drop the lawsuit, and give the deed back to Mark. You know I'm about to get married. Jessica's family expects me to have a place in the city. You're ruining my future." I looked at him, amused by his bottomless selfishness. He was nearly 30 years old but acted like an entitled child. "Your future is your own responsibility, Kevin. You're an adult. If you want to get married, get a job and buy your own damn house. Why am I responsible for bankrolling your life? That apartment was paid for with my and my parents' blood, sweat, and tears. You have no claim to a single brick." Kevin's face turned red with fury. "You have a high-paying job, and your parents have money. What's the big deal if you give me the apartment? We're family. Stop being so selfish. If you give me the house, I'll tell Mark not to divorce you. I'll let you come back." I burst out laughing. He thought the privilege of being his sister-in-law was so great, I'd trade my life savings for it. Thanks for the generous offer, but I'll pass. I can't wait to be divorced. As for the apartment, I'll say it one last time, never. Now go tell your brother and mother to prepare for court. And for the record, with your lazy, arrogant attitude, it's only a matter of time before your girlfriend sees you for what you really are." Enraged, he lunged at me. "You bitch! How dare you curse me? I'll—" Before he could touch me, 2 large hotel security guards materialized, grabbing his arms and pinning them behind his back. "Sir, you need to leave immediately. If you cause any more trouble, we will call the police." Kevin struggled and shouted obscenities but was powerless against the guards. He was dragged out of the lobby and tossed onto the sidewalk like a bag of trash. The other hotel guests stared at him with disdain. I watched him go, then dusted off my sleeves as if brushing away a piece of dirt. These people deserved no kindness. The next day, I met David at his office. He had a grave expression on his face. Spread across his desk were bank statements covered in numbers. "Emily, sit down. I've found something you need to see. It's not going to be easy to hear." My heart pounded. "What is it, David? Just tell me." He slid the statements toward me, pointing to highlighted lines. These are Mark's payroll and personal account statements for the past 2 years. Look, every month, on payday, there's an automatic transfer of $20,000 to another account. I squinted. The recipient was Carol Johnson, a recurring $20,000 transfer every single month. I was floored. $20,000 a month? David Mark told me his salary was only about $5,000 a month after taxes. He gave me $1,000 for utilities and kept the rest for his business expenses. I was paying for our mortgage, our food, everything else, working overtime just to make ends meet, I thought. David nodded sympathetically. He's been lying to you for years. His actual take-home pay is closer to $10,000 a month. He was hiding half of it from you. That $20,000 over 2 years adds up to $480,000. I was speechless. While I was scrimping and saving, he was secretly funneling a fortune to his mother. What did she do with all that money, David? He flipped to the next page. This is the crucial part. I had my team trace Carol's accounts. After receiving the money from Mark, she transferred large sums to a real estate development company. The memo line on the transfers reads, "Down payment for the Shoreline Vista, owner, Kevin Johnson." My ears rang. Kevin Johnson. Mark had been using our marital assets to secretly buy his brother a condo. They were treating me like a workhorse, bleeding me dry to fund their own secret investments. The bastards, I whispered, crumpling the paper in my hand. No wonder Kevin felt so entitled to our apartment. He already had another one being bought with our money. Exactly, David said. Under the law, Mark's salary during your marriage is marital property. His unauthorized transfer of nearly $500,000 to buy property for his brother is an illegal dissipation of assets. We have every right to demand that money back. This betrayal was deeper than any affair. It was a cold, calculated, long-term plan to exploit me. David, thank you for finding this. They won't get away with it. Prepare to add this to the lawsuit. But right now, I have something I need to do. Where are you going? I'm going to pay real estate mogul Kevin a little visit. I hear he's been bragging to his girlfriend that he bought his new condo all by himself. I think it's time she learned the truth about her fiancé. David smiled. Go get him. But be careful. Call me if you need anything. I took a cab straight to the Shoreline Vista Sales Gallery in Queens. A friend in real estate had confirmed that Kevin was scheduled to sign the final purchase agreement and make his next payment today. He would definitely bring Jessica along to show off. The sales gallery was buzzing. I put on my sunglasses and scanned the room. It didn't take long to spot Kevin. He was wearing an ill-fitting suit, his hair slicked back with too much gel, sitting at a VIP table. Beside him was a beautiful, stylishly dressed young woman, Jessica, looking at him with adoring eyes as he signed a stack of papers. I walked closer, close enough to hear Kevin's boasting. See, babe, I told you. As a senior VP, money's no object. I'm paying for this place in cash. Once we're married, we'll live here in style. Jessica snuggled up to him. Oh, Kevin, you're amazing. I can't believe someone so young can afford a luxury condo all by himself. My parents are going to be so impressed. Kevin puffed out his chest. This is nothing, baby. I'm thinking of getting a new Mercedes, too. I felt physically ill. An unemployed leech who stole from his own family, pretending to be a self-made millionaire. I took a deep breath, removed my sunglasses, and walked straight to their table. Well, hello, Senior VP Kevin. Buying such a big place and you didn't even invite your sister-in-law to celebrate? My voice made Kevin jump as if he'd been electrocuted. He whipped around, and his face drained of all color when he saw me. The pen dropped from his hand. Emily? What are you doing here? Jessica looked from me to him, confused. Kevin, who is this? Your sister-in-law? You told me your brother and his wife moved to Europe. I smiled at Jessica. Hi, Jessica. I'm Emily, wife of Mark, Kevin's older brother. I'm still right here in New York. I guess Kevin was too embarrassed to tell you the truth about me. I turned to the sales agent and slapped the stamped bank statements onto the glass table. I'm requesting that you halt this transaction immediately. The agent was taken aback. Ma'am, on what grounds? This is Mr. Johnson's purchase. I looked Kevin dead in the eye, my voice ringing out for everyone in the gallery to hear. Because the money being used for this condo was stolen from my and my husband's joint marital assets, this man, Kevin Johnson, has been unemployed for 3 years. Every dollar he has came from my husband secretly siphoning funds from our family account. We are currently in litigation over these funds. This is the proof. Jessica's eyes widened in horror. She turned to Kevin, her voice trembling. Kevin, is what she's saying true? You told me you were a senior VP making 6 figures. How can you be unemployed? Kevin was sweating profusely, trying to stammer out a defense. Don't listen to her, babe. She's crazy. She's just jealous and trying to ruin our happiness. This money is from my stock market investments. Stock market investments? I scoffed, spreading the statements in front of Jessica. Take a look, Jessica. Every deposit into his mother's account matches, to the day, my husband's paycheck deposits. If he's such a brilliant investor, why would he need his mother to handle his money? You're a smart girl. Surely you don't want to marry a con artist who steals from his own family. Jessica picked up the papers, her hands shaking. The truth was there in black and white. The image of the wealthy, successful man Kevin had built for her shattered into a million pieces. Everyone in the sales gallery was now staring at our table, whispering. Kevin stared at the floor, humiliated. The air in the Shoreline Vista sales gallery crackled with tension. Kevin remained frozen in his chair, his face a sickly gray. He stared at the bank statements as if they were venomous snakes. I crossed my arms, maintaining a calm, commanding presence. I addressed the sales agent, who was fidgeting nervously. Ma'am, I'll repeat myself. The funds, Mr. Kevin Johnson is using to purchase this property are contested assets in an active divorce proceeding. If your company knowingly accepts these funds and finalizes this sale, I will name your company in my lawsuit for facilitating the transfer of illicitly obtained assets. That's a legal headache I'm sure your project doesn't need. The agent paled at the word lawsuit. She quickly gathered the contract papers from in front of Kevin. My apologies, ma'am. If the assets are indeed in dispute, we are legally obligated to suspend the transaction pending verification. We cannot proceed. Seeing his dream slipping away, Kevin exploded. He slammed his hands on the table and shot up, pointing a trembling finger at me. You shut up. Don't listen to her lies. This is money my mother gave me. It has nothing to do with you. You're just jealous that I can afford a place like this. He turned to the agent. You process my paperwork. I'll take full responsibility. I gave a short, bitter laugh. Your mother gave it to you? Where did your mother, who lives on a tiny pension, get $500,000? Look at the statements, Kevin. The money came from your brother's salary, our joint salary. You stole from me to impress a girl, and you feel no shame? Jessica, who had been silently reading, finally looked up, her eyes filled with a mixture of shock and betrayal. Kevin, explain this. Why is it your brother's salary? You said you built your career from nothing. Was everything you told me a lie? Kevin stammered, sweat pouring down his face. Jessica, baby, listen to me. I just borrowed it. My mom was just holding it for me. Don't believe this woman. She's trying to break us up. I decided to deliver the final blow. I looked directly at Jessica, my voice softening with a tone of warning. Jessica, look at the man next to you. He's been jobless for 3 years. He begs his mother for coffee money. The scooter he rides belongs to my father. That suit he's wearing is probably a rental or stolen from my husband's closet. Ask to see his bank account right now. I bet there isn't even $1,000 in it. My words were like daggers, piercing Kevin's fragile ego and shattering Jessica's illusions. She sprang to her feet, her face flushed with anger and humiliation. She looked at Kevin with utter disgust. You are a liar, a pathetic fraud. You promised me the world, but it was all built on money you stole from your own family? Kevin fell to his knees, grabbing her legs in a desperate plea right there in the middle of the sales gallery. Jessica, please, I love you. I only lied because I wanted you to be proud of me. Forgive me. We can go home. I'll have my mom sell her house. I'll get you a— Let go of me! Jessica shrieked, and she slapped him hard across the face. The sound cracked through the silent room. I wanted a decent man with ambition, not a leech who lives off his family. You make me sick. Don't ever let me see you again. She ripped the cheap engagement ring from her finger and threw it at his face. It clattered onto the floor. She turned to me and bowed her head slightly. "I'm sorry, Emily. I was foolish to believe him. Thank you for opening my eyes." With that, she grabbed her purse and strode out without a backward glance. Kevin was left kneeling on the floor, surrounded by mocking, pitying stares. He had lost everything in a single, humiliating moment. He looked up at me with eyes full of hatred. "This is what you get for being a lazy, greedy parasite, Kevin," I said calmly. "Go tell your mother and brother to get ready. I'm coming for everything." I turned and walked out, leaving him in his public ruin. That evening, back in my hotel room, the front desk called. 3 people claiming to be my family were causing a scene in the lobby, demanding to see me. I knew exactly who it was. Humiliated and desperate, the whole clan had come to beg. I told the receptionist to make them wait. Then I calmly changed into an elegant silk robe, reapplied my red lipstick, and after 15 minutes, I went downstairs. The scene was pure melodrama. Carol was sitting on the marble floor, weeping. Mark and Kevin stood beside her, looking haggard and defeated. When they saw me, they rushed over. "Emily, my child, please forgive us," Carol cried, grabbing my legs. Mark knelt beside her. "Honey, I was wrong. I'm so sorry. Please, drop the lawsuit. Kevin's a wreck." Jessica left him. "Don't destroy our family." Kevin just stared at the floor, mumbling, "I'm sorry, Emily, please." It was a pathetic performance, designed to make me look like the heartless villain. But I knew it was an act, born of fear, not remorse. I coolly stepped back, shaking my leg free of Carol's grip. Save the drama. I'm not the naive girl you can manipulate anymore. The lawsuit is filed. The evidence is with my lawyer. Your only job now is to find a defense attorney, not to grovel here and make a fool of yourselves. Seeing my resolve, Carol's demeanor shifted instantly. She jumped up, her voice turning venomous again. "You cruel, evil woman! After I've begged you, you still won't relent? I curse you. I hope you get hit by a car." Mark tried to silence her, but it was too late. I turned to the head of hotel security, who had been watching nearby. "Sir, these people are harassing me and have just threatened my life. Please call the police. I would like to file a report for public disturbance and making terroristic threats." The word police made them freeze. No, don't call the cops. We're leaving," Mark stammered. He grabbed his mother and brother and practically dragged them out of the hotel, fleeing like rats from the light. I watched them disappear into the night without an ounce of pity. My cruelty today was the lesson they had earned. The final battle took place not in a lobby, but at my workplace. 2 days later, I arrived at the office to find colleagues whispering and avoiding my gaze. I was immediately summoned to the CEO's office. An anonymous email had been sent to the entire company, featuring the misleading photo of me and David, with a caption accusing me of being an adulteress who hired thugs to abuse her poor, sick family. It was Mark's last, desperate attempt to ruin me. In the CEO's office, I calmly presented my case. "Sir, this is a malicious lie from my abusive, soon-to-be ex-husband. I request an emergency all-hands meeting to present the facts and clear my name." Intrigued, he agreed. In front of the entire company, I projected the evidence onto the main screen. David's legal credentials, our platonic relationship, and then the damning audio recording. A collective gasp went through the room as my colleagues heard the plot to fake Mark's death. I followed it with the bank statements showing the embezzlement and Mark's threatening text messages. When I finished, the room erupted in applause. My female colleagues rushed to hug me, some in tears. My CEO stood up and shook my hand firmly. "Emily, the company stands with you 100%. We will offer any legal support you need to prosecute this slanderer." My honor was restored. The day of the court hearing finally arrived. Mark, Kevin, and Carol looked like shadows of their former selves, shrunken and defeated. Their lawyers' arguments about family duty and a harmless joke were systematically dismantled by David, who presented the clear, irrefutable evidence of a calculated criminal conspiracy. The judge's verdict was swift and decisive. The divorce was granted. The apartment was to be sold. But due to Mark's egregious misconduct and dissipation of marital assets, I was awarded 70% of the proceeds. Furthermore, The $480,000 Mark had stolen was to be paid back to me directly from his 30% share. After the math was done, he was left with virtually nothing. The gavel fell, ending the nightmare. As we left the courthouse, Mark looked at me one last time, his eyes filled with a pathetic, too-late regret. I met his gaze with cold indifference and walked away into my new life. 6 months later, I stood in front of my own boutique flower shop, Serenity Blooms. I had sold the old apartment and all its bad memories, using the money to start the business I'd always dreamed of. Life was quiet, peaceful, and mine. David was a frequent visitor, and a gentle, respectful love was beginning to blossom between us. One afternoon, a man on a beat-up scooter, wearing a faded Uber Eats uniform, pulled over to eat a sad-looking sandwich. His face was gaunt and weathered. I was stunned to realize it was Mark. After the divorce, he'd been fired for the scandal. Kevin had fallen into gambling debt, and Carol had suffered a minor stroke and had to move back to a small town in the Midwest, dependent on the few dollars Mark could send from his delivery job. He looked up, and our eyes met. A wave of shame washed over his face. He dropped his sandwich, fumbled to start his scooter, and sped off, fleeing from the life he had so carelessly destroyed. I watched him go, feeling no hatred or triumph, only a quiet calm. They had received their justice, and I had been reborn. I stepped back into my shop, surrounded by the fragrant scent of lilies and roses. The afternoon sun streamed through the window, dancing on the floor. I smiled, breathing in the sweet air of freedom. Life was beautiful, and my true happiness was just beginning.